Okay, awesome. Okay, guys. So this week we just kicked off the question and answers series, about the simple, stupid questions, right? Or silly questions that you think you have, but that everybody's really asking. It's in the back of people's minds. And the thing is, if you're not asking these questions out loud, getting the help that you need with answering them, you're going to suffer, right? Because you're going to suffer because you're not getting the answers. You're going to suffer from the anxiety of like not knowing where to look or whether you're going about things the right way. So this series is really about bringing you certainty in a world where there's so much that's uncertain, so much insecurity, stress, anxiety, and worry about all these unknowns, right? And so it's a big question. If you're a consultant, there's big questions. If you're a consultant, if you're a contract worker, if you're an educator, right? If you are in the hair care industry, health and wellness profession, this question that I'm going to be answering today is going to really support you in being able to know what your options are and what your choices are and the way that you really want to be thinking about the days ahead. Okay, so that question is, how do I keep my income steady or secure during a disrupted job market? Okay. Now, you may not necessarily perhaps verbalize it this way, but you know what I mean, right? Like the work isn't there. Like I've spoken to a number of people over these past few months. And like I mentioned, from the wellness, wellness and well-being or health, healthcare professionals, but they're in sort of like a specific niche, right? They're not like the doctors, the traditional sense of doctors. They're people who take care of people's well-being, helping them with what they need to do. And their life is disrupted, right? If you're someone who works in the traditional job, the traditional 9 to 5, your job has been disrupted. And and I'll talk in a moment about how those disruptions have played out. And I just remember there's a slide, let me see if I can pull it up, that just shows you what industries have been disrupted the most. And so the question of how do I keep my income steady or secure during a disrupted job market is like, is essentially, how do I make sure that if I lose my job, if my industry starts to cut back, if just anything changes, that I'm still going to land on my feet, right? How do I land on my feet in a place where everything, what used to be up is down, what used to be down is now up, what used to be left is right? How do I do that? How do I maintain that sense of security and peace of mind of just knowing that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay? That's what I'll be answering. So let me ask you a question. What would you prefer, okay, out of the following? Would you prefer job security, knowing that you can punch a clock every single day, till, whatever the retirement age is, and then right off into the sunset of retirement? Or would you prefer income security, right? Again, job security or income security. So job security is you get to punch your clock 9 to 5, you get whatever that's, steady check is.
Steady paycheck, yeah.
Yep, steady paycheck. And or income security. Okay. Now, income security is that no matter what happens, whether that job is there or not, the money still is going to be there. See the difference? Mm-hmm. There's the job, right? Which, as long as the company exists, the money is there. As long as the market is doing okay, as long as the demands and the clients, all that other stuff is there, right? You still have a job, and then there's money that comes with that job. Or would you rather just have the money be secured, right? I think you might be scratching your head a little bit like, well, I want the money to be secure, right? So if you'd want the money to be secure, what do you need a job for, right? Or why would you want the job security, okay? So income security is what I hope is your answer, okay? Because that is secure regardless of whether you have a job or not, okay? Now, good answer if that's what you chose. And I want to talk a little bit about this, okay? About America's job market. So let me pull up this one slide that I just realized that I'm missing that is so mission critical right now, okay? Now let me skip to this other slide here. I'm just looking to pull this up to show you something. Show you guys some stuff. All right, here we are. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay. All right. All right, so as far as job security, right, just to give you a little visual of what this looks like. Now, these are two different sources, so some things are gonna be gonna overlap. It may not be identical, but let's take a look at this. Okay, so the disruption in America's job market. Okay, basically really comes down to the instability for the workers, right? In some cases, it's insufficient or unpredictable income to maintain standards of living. Okay. Insufficient or unpredictable income to maintain standards of living. You know what that feels like, right? Either you don't have enough or you can't count on your job, your role, your whatever, right? Sticking around long enough for you to have the income you need to maintain your standard of living. That's a little bit frightening and a little bit concerning, okay? And so to give you an idea, based on this data, which actually was from last year, right? Kicking off around this time last year, Yelp, everybody's familiar with Yelp, did a little survey of what happened to businesses between March and July, right? And these are the industries that got hammered, the small businesses that got crushed during this whole thing, okay? Restaurant industry leads with the most local business closures, all right? Surprise there, right? Not a surprise, that's a joke, okay? It's cynicism, sarcasm. All right, so there's some miscellaneous industries, okay, fair enough. That's a lot of miscellaneous, okay? We're gonna see some of that. But event planning, automotive, beauty, retail, restaurants, okay? There's some damage that got done there. So if you've been part of those industries or part of an industry that is connected to these industries, you already know what I'm talking about. And so here are the occupations that were affected the most. Service workers, right? Interesting enough, service workers, art, design, entertainment, and media workers, okay? Right, people not going out as much. Small business owners, of course, in their various forms, right? In different industries, construction and mining workers, that was a field that was definitely impacted, right? As people pulled their money back and said, hey, no, we're not building anymore, or we're gonna hold off until things get a little bit more stable, but definitely was impacted. Sales workers, that's a given, because in some cases, if you're in sales, you gotta see people face to face, it screws with you and your income when you can't sell the way that you used to, okay? So here's the other thing, transportation workers, right? Now, that was kind of interesting, but yeah, people stopped traveling, right? Bus routes, airlines, in whatever forms that they took, right? There was less movement of people. Manufacturing, it's a given, less consumption means that people don't, you know, you're just gonna end up, if you end up doing a whole lot of production and nobody to consume it, you know, you end up in a situation. So again, this is just a perspective on what could have happened here, right? And everyone will have their other assessments of what may have influenced some of these manufacturing closures, right? Because if people aren't consuming, they aren't buying, and you know, you can't sit on just your infrastructure waiting for the orders to come in. You're gonna get shut down, okay? Installation and maintenance and repair workers, I gotta clarify kind of what they meant for this, in whatever form that takes, whether it's as domestic or residential, commercial. But yeah, I mean, you know, if there's things that need to be done, housing wise, let's just use that for an example. People aren't hanging around, coming around, right? To do it, because everyone's gonna hold on to their money and say, oh, well, we don't need to do that now, we'll wait. Healthcare workers, that was a shock, right? Depending, I guess, what field that they were in, you would have thought they were in demand, but these are the ones that got affected the most. Clerical, right? And office workers, that's a given. People aren't showing up to the office anymore, so goodbye. All right, so I just walked you through these professions. I'm sure, again, just know these are just the top 10, right? You might be number 11, 12, 18, right? But these are the top 10, right, that were affected the most based on the source that I got this from. Okay, so if this doesn't make you a little bit nervous or anxious, right? Again, maybe it's just These aren't your industries. I get it. But in some way, shape, or form, at some point, it might cross your mind to consider what the impacts are, right? So maybe you still have your role, you still have your job, things are being cut back. But here are the three things for those who, if their roles, if they still have a job, here are the three things that impacted the jobs that they have, and specifically actually impacted their income. Okay, impacted their income. Layoffs, no doubt, right? If people were laid off, it impacted their income. Okay, so they have to collect unemployment. Reduced hours, right? Not too many people are talking about this, and I'm shocked, right? If you used to work a 40-hour week and I got cut to 30, and your budget, your household income and expenses were based on a 40-hour week, or each person working 40 hours a week, and now both of you guys are working at a fraction of that time, what do you expect, right? It's going to be less income. So that's going to disrupt your cash flow. And, or, this is what the third thing was, reduced pay, right? Some people, when they came back, they're like, hey, look, you can stay on, you can still work with us, but we gotta pay you a little bit less, right? It's kind of almost the same thing, right? Because if you have reduced hours, you're not working as much as you used to, so that reduces your pay, right? Income. And reduced pay is just straight up like, okay, well, maybe you still work the 40 hours, but we got to pay you a little bit less. You good with that? Are you cool with that? You can come back if you're cool with that. If not, goodbye, right? These are the ways that people are impacted. And so what do you do? What do you do when those three things are some way, somehow have impacted you, right? So if you've been laid off, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do a job search. You're going to try to psych yourself up to go back to school. Man, I just got to go back to school. I just got to go back to school. Okay. You're going to try to get a new career, get new certifications. And just so you guys know, I'm not against the job search. I'm not against the back to school, right? But I just want you to do it in a way that you're informed and you're educated about what you're up against, okay? In doing that. Here's the other income strategy that people try to, apply themselves to. If you have reduced hours, people try to say, oh, well, I'm just gonna spend less. Well, that means you lower your standard of living, right? Period. You're gonna spend less. You can't live at the same level that you used to. So you lower your standard of living, you spend less, you eat less, live less, and now you also look for work, because if you don't get the same hours that you used to get, you got to make up for that income, right? So now you're considering 2 or more jobs, right? In a situation where you got your primary one and you got your secondary one, and maybe you try more. So maybe you end up Ubering, or you end up doing a DoorDash, right? Or you end up saying, well, I'm just going to go back to school now that I have a little bit more time since I'm not working the same hours. And now you put yourself in that position. And, or if you're in a situation where you have reduced pay, again, you still got less income, so you lower your standard of living, you spend less, eat less, live less, look for work, consider 2 or more jobs, right? Working 2 or more jobs, right? Which includes the one you already have. And you end up going into, the shared economy, Uber, DoorDash, back to school. Right now, again, I just say Uber, DoorDash. I mean, look, there's other kinds of work. You can go on, Upwork, you can use Fiverr, you can, right? The hustle is real, right? And there's other alternatives, but I just use these to just illustrate that you're still in the same situation, regardless of what happens, right? At the end of the day, your standard of living has to get lowered. You're going to have to make some adjustments while you figure out how to get back to where you were income wise, right? And get that sense of security, that sense of peace that you once had. All of that, in my mind, guys, is stressful. Say it with me. Is stressful as the sirens go off in the background, right? Like, I am not in the mood for experiencing the layoffs, and I'm not in the mood for the back to school hustle. I'm not in the mood for the, gotta get the second or the third job, and the reduced pay and the reduced hours and the, you know what I'm saying? Are you guys with me on this? I'm not in the mood. And I hope you're not. There's so much going on in life already, and to take on and try to pivot off of any of those 3 things, it's stressful, guys. I know I've experienced that, and I don't want you to. But if you want to, okay, be my guest. But I doubt you're not here because you want to stress more. You want to stress less, right? You want more income and less stress. So even if you're still employed, well, I still got my job. Okay, I got you. You still got your job. All right. But you still might be a little nervous because what you don't know is what the meetings are that management is having. And unless you're like an accountant or someone who really knows how the numbers work within your organization, you should be nervous, right? You should start figuring out how your job is tied to that company's bottom line. And unless you are like a producer that impacts that bottom line, if you're just a person sort of in the hierarchy somewhere, but you just are thankful, thank God I still have a job. If you're like that kind of a person, you're not dealing in reality, because changes are coming. Changes are happening in the backdrop, right? And the day they knock on your desk or your cubicle or whatever, or maybe they send you the email, boom, you say, hey, meet with so-and-so. And you know that anytime somebody meets with so-and-so, they go in with a job and come out without one, right? That's what I would say should be alarming, right? And put you in a position to want to, again, start to reconsider job security over income security, okay? Truth is, your job or your industry could be next that's impacted by any of those three things that I mentioned. And so the question then becomes, all right, well, what do I do? Now we circle back to the original question of how do I create job security, right? With just so much disruption. Well, here's a challenge I have. I say that you should match or exceed, right, your lost and or current income with, watch this, your intellectual capital. Okay? What do I mean by intellectual capital? Maybe some of you are not as familiar. It's not like an everyday term that you use, but you'll know in a moment what I mean by that. So what does that mean? Well, when we talk about intellectual capital, we're talking about leveraging your superior applied knowledge, okay? So what you want to do is if you leverage your superior applied knowledge, which is what your intellectual capital from your field experience, and become the subject matter expert and consult, you have a shot at being able to start carving out your path for income security. So, so what we're doing is, what does this mean for you to have intellectual capital? It's when you leverage what you know, right? Some of you know what you know, and some of you are experts already in your industry, but your industry is downsizing and it's getting rid of people, right? So, and what I want you to know is that people still need your specific set of skills and knowledge, but may not find it as easily as they used to, right? They still need what you know. They still need how you do it. They still need the secret sauce, right? But they may not be able to find it the way that they used to. They used to be able to go to this one company and just hire this kind of a person. But now they let that person go, or that company is no longer, and they're trying to find those people. Now, of course, they naturally are going to look on LinkedIn. They're going to look on the job boards, right? But between now and when they figure out how to find that person or get a recruiting team in place, you got to know how to make yourself easier to find, okay? What does intellectual capital mean? Again, your knowledge, your skill, your insights are still in demand despite the layoffs, sometimes in other industries, right? So if you were great at office management or digital file management in a law firm, right? There's another company, a tech firm, that has similar systems or similar need or whatever it might be that they need you to fulfill, right? Different industry, but same skill, same insights, okay? This is mission critical. Like, you have to start thinking like this. If you don't start thinking like this, you're going to really, really struggle with feeling like you're invincible, okay? And we'll talk about that in a moment. So my ultimate point here is that you must find a way to create consistent income with intellectual capital-based contributions. In other words, you got to find clients who need your help, right? You have to create high-value resources and charge for access. Again, that's stuff we can talk about later, but Are you getting the sense that you have to be the one, right? The buck has to stop and start with you. You have to start to assess how valuable what you know is in the industry. Because once the industry gets rid of you, I mean, you could try to knock back on the door and find another job in the same industry, but be back to square one where that's the next company that might collapse too. So you got to really take inventory of what you know, and you'll get some help with that. Look, I'm going to wrap up with a few thoughts. I want you to be invincible, period. Right? I want you to fear nothing in this job market. I want you to look and say, look, I have a job. I'm grateful for it. If they were to let me go, I am the plan A and I am the plan B. And I'm going to win. Period. Full stop. But to be able to have this level of confidence that you can win, that you can still crush it, regardless of what's going on in the marketplace, it begins with being invincible. And being invincible consists of 3 key domains. 1, subject matter expertise or specialization or intellectual capital. You got to own that. 2, you've got to be an extraordinary closer. You got to be able to handle customers' concerns. Like, when that company reaches out to you and they have questions and they have concerns about whether or not you're the one for them to bring on board as a consultant, or even if they want to bring you on board as an employee, right? Even when I see myself as an employee, or when I'm hired or I'm working in a place, I still see myself as a consultant because I know they can cut me off at any time, at any point, on any day. I'm always ready for the cutoff, right? So don't fall asleep at the wheel. Know your worth and know how to handle concerns, right? That includes even when recruiters call you. Last thing, you want to have superior marketing skills. This is where a lot of people are. To say that they're weak is an understatement. Most people don't even understand the need or the approach or the value of having superior marketing skills. Superior marketing skills ultimately comes down with mastering the art of being visible, right, to the people that need to see you and make a buying decision based on the value of your subject matter expertise, right? Let me just circle this over here, okay? That's why you got to have this. So if these things aren't in place for you, you are vulnerable to the disruption, okay? So in the middle here, though, I want to draw your attention to something, is where the secret sauce lives. That when all these 3 things are working, you can have a revenue scaling system, because naturally there's income that starts to get generated when you're a subject matter expert. You know how to close the deal and have people come on board with you, right, as private clients. Or if a company wants to bring you on board, you know how to have that money come in, right? And you know how to keep your marketing skills in place, right, for other people to keep you in demand, so that if this place cuts you off or if a client drops, you're like, that's fine. You've got a superior marketing system to keep bringing people on and in, right? And then once that income comes in, you've got to be able to scale that, right? You don't just want to be vulnerable back again by just having one person coming on board and feeling like, whew, okay, I made it. Well, what happens when that person decides like they don't want to work with you anymore? Right? Or that they just lost their job and they can't afford your services anymore, or whatever it is that happens, right? You got to be ready to have a revenue scaling situation where all these 3 things are working and you're not, again, vulnerable. Okay. So the question I have for you is, are you or your practice invincible? Right? Genuine question. And I would almost put that down at like 99.99999% of folks, right, can't answer that question, because they'll ask, well, what do you mean by invincible? You know what I mean by invincible? Like, are you or your practice invincible, right? Because if you're not a subject matter expert or specialist, or you're not confident in your intellectual capital, that's weakness number 1. If you're not an extraordinary closer that can like just get the right people who are interested in talking to you and working with you to say, oh, hell yes, I want to work with you, that's another weakness. If you don't have a superior marketing set of skills, or have an optimized way for people to consistently pick you as the person they want to recruit or bring on board, or have be their, be their person, their go-to person. If you don't, if none of these, if you don't have all three of these in some way progressing towards 100%, even just progressing 60 to 75%, your practice is not invincible. You are not invincible. That makes you vulnerable to the disruption. Is that clear? So the question becomes, are you willing to take the initiative to master what you need to master so that you can master with this secret sauce in the center? And I'll tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy to do this. People are drowning in information about, here's what you should do, here's what you should do next, and they're just overwhelmed by what they need to do. And the question I have is, would you like help with figuring this out? Wherever you are, would you like help with figuring out how to become invincible, right? Even if you got two of those things going on. Oh, I'm a subject matter expert. Okay, and oh, I'm a good closer. All right, well, how does the marketing piece come together, right? Any part of that, do you want help with figuring out? If the answer is yes, continue to watch. If the answer is no, we're good. Have a good day. I'm not saying that to be a jerk or, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to insult you by showing you what's next on the other side after this slide. So if you don't need help, fantastic. Thank you for showing up. But if you do, here's what I'm going to share with you, okay? If you want help with this, you're going to have to be a student and really master, again, the basics of subject matter expertise, knowing how to get yourself positioned even if you know above average knowledge in your industry, that's okay. We can still get you to a place where you position yourself as a subject matter expert. You have to be a student of understanding how to have an extraordinary way of closing sales. And this includes digital marketing, okay? I failed to mention that, right? Like, you can close people directly with phone, you can close people with emails, and the superior marketing sales, we're talking Facebook ads, we're talking Google ads or YouTube ads, right? You've got to have a system in place to keep the right people talking to you about your specialization, okay? And again, once all those things start working, you need a revenue scaling system. So that's what you are going to get help with if you need help, okay? And the question again is, are you or your practice invincible? And actually, I think I would rewrite this and say, are you ready to become invincible? Are you ready to have your practice become an invincible practice? Okay. And if you are, right? And if you're not ready, like I said in the previous slide, you can head back, right? You can, jump off at this point. But if you are ready and you'd like to, I want to give you something. I'm going to give you a report for anybody who's showing up right now. I will be giving you a report which is going to save your career or your client-based business, right? With this #1 pandemic career move contract professionals must make now, okay? And that could be the same for contract professionals, consulting professionals. At the end of the day, there's a career move that you need to make. And this report is going to walk you through what you need to do and how you need to think about this whole concept of intellectual capital and monetizing it. Okay, so if you are checking this out, for those of you who are checking this out live, leave your email in the chat so that we can get you this document. Okay, get you this email. All right, emailed to you. Okay, that's very mission critical. If you're seeing this after, also there's a link below that you'll get a chance to use to check out and access this gift. Okay, so. Fantastic. There's a video that's inside of it as well that will walk you through, right? An exercise similar to what I just walked you through to show you what this #1 career, pandemic career move you need to make is. It's gonna be awesome, right? It's just gonna give you some real insights, some real wisdom on how to approach this, okay? So when it's all said and done, some of you may say, look, I get it. I want the PDF and I wanna talk to you, Bowie, all right? I wanna talk to somebody. And I say, smart move. And if you do want to have a conversation with me, I will say, you can schedule yourself just by applying and going to the calendar site. This will take you over to a place where you can actually fill in a form that would just give me a sense of who you are, what your challenges are, what you're facing, and schedule a time to get on the phone with me so that we can really talk about strategy, right? And how to like get this Invincible consultant model working for you, okay? So that being said, we're done, right? I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this all the way through and get to this point. If you are at this point, I put money down that you need the help, you want the help, you're curious about the help. And if that's the case, you really genuinely owe yourself the opportunity to have a conversation about how this can work for you. All right. So if there are any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat for those of you who are checking this out live. And then for those who are also, if you see this a little bit later, when you apply to schedule your call, you'll have a chance to actually state what your question is, what you want to get out of your strategy session, and we'll take it from there. All right. So thanks a lot. Thanks again for watching, guys. And I will see you on your strategy session. All right, guys, take care.